Being here, I'm going to open this special meeting of the Camp Borough Borough Council to address possible ordinance change. This meeting has been properly advertised and notices were posted on all properties that will be affected. Please note that a stenographer is present and will be recording the entire hearing. I'm going to do a quick roll call. Bonnie Bentz.
Here.
Richard Guerin. Did you wave? I know you're here. I see you. Alyssa Packer.
Here.
Carl Schultz. There he is. You can see him. Aaron Broman.
Here.
And Zach Williard.
Here.
All right. I'm going to introduce Isaac Wakefield from Saltzman Hughes, who is going to review the exhibits.
Thank you, Madam President. We do have a few exhibits in support of the ordinance tonight on behalf of the borough. I just want to run through them very quickly, and I believe Julie can pull them up on the screen for me. We have a few late additions too that won't appear on the screen, but I will reference them and they will be added to the packet. Exhibit, and just you can scroll through as I go through here, Julie. Exhibit 1 would be the hearing advertisement for this hearing, along with the copy of the ordinance that was provided, as well as the proof of publication indicating that the notice was published on March 16th and March 23rd, 2021. Sorry, that's going to be a bit lengthy. You can rifle right down to the bottom. As she's going, I'll just continue to read or explain. Exhibit number 2 will be the attested copy of the ordinance that was supplied to the Cumberland County Law Library on March 12th. That was confirmed by the library as having been received and displayed. Exhibit 3 contains the legal posting, the legal notice posting that Mr. Miller posted around the subject properties in the borough generally, along with photos that he took and initialed confirming such posting. Exhibit 4 that you will ultimately get to is a condensed advertisement. It's a non-required advertisement that the borough chose to run relative to this meeting to ensure, to be doubly sure that public notice was provided. We do have a proof of publication for that as well. And that was run on March 31. Exhibit 5 consists of the zoning amendment that was sent to the Cumberland County Planning Commission for review, as well as a map, a subsequent map that was sent as a supplement, as well as the review report that was received upon the Planning Commission's review of the same. Exhibit 6 will be the copy of the zoning ordinance proposed amendment that was sent to the Borough's Planning Commission, along with the map for that as well. It's my understanding that to date, there haven't been written comments received by from the Borough's Planning Commission, but that was sent back in February, at the end of February, February 26th, 2021. Exhibit 7 is a letter received today from McNeese Wallace and Nurick, a law firm, regarding an objection to the proposed zoning amendment. Exhibit 8, we did have a number of emailed comments that came in at the 11th hour to the borough today. All of these would be received April 13th via email from a Mrs. Beth Kern, a Mr. David Carmichael, Ms. Connie Miller, and Mr. Roy Hansen. So all of those would be made part of the record and have been distributed to council. And then finally, Exhibit 9, I should note Exhibit 8 and Exhibit 9 are not part of the packet that she's currently going through as they were received at the last minute. Exhibit 9 is a March 23rd, 2021 letter from several property owners, including a Miss Wallet and Dissinger. There's 2 copies of that. One was received today from Mr. Leidy, I believe, L-E-I-D-Y, who's a realtor on behalf of those folks. And a second copy of the same letter received from Deborah Wallet also today. With that, that's the balance of all of the exhibits that we would ask to be put in the record this evening in support of the ordinance.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Charlie Schmiel. Many of you will recognize Charlie as he's been with us from the beginning. He's with Urban Research and Development Group. Charlie's going to share his screen and is going to explain the ordinance changes that are proposed. After Charlie's presentation, we will have a time for council members to ask questions. After council members have asked their questions, then we will open it up for public comment. All right, Charlie, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there is a memo that summarizes these changes, and the map summarizes the changes. What you see on the screen is the current zoning map with the highlights of changes proposed as part of this amendment process. Let's see. I think I have to shrink this a little bit so everybody can see it with the faces on the screen.
There we go.
The first map change that's proposed is along State Street, along the lower Allen border. These properties are currently zoned general commercial. They're one lot thin from State Street, which means they have a lot of impacts upon the homes immediately behind them. The concern is that could allow some very intensive commercial uses, including drive-through restaurants, auto repair, auto sales, gas stations, and that those could cause conflicts with the homes behind them. So the proposal is to go instead from the general commercial to the neighborhood commercial. The neighborhood commercial primarily allows less intense types of commercial uses. It does not allow the auto sales, the auto repair, and the drive-through restaurants. The second change involves a number of properties on 32nd Street, the bypass. There was a district created called High Density Residential Office, but it's not high density. So the name was inaccurate. So we propose to rename that Medium Density Residential Office. This affects the east side of 1115 south of Chestnut Street and the west side of 1115 north of Walnut Street. The proposal is to go to actually south of Walnut, the proposal is to go to Medium Density Residential Office 1. This would allow for housing and offices and a few related uses. And then north of Walnut, the proposal is to go from high density residential office to low density residential. In that case, there's concerns about the amount of traffic and the difficulty of providing access for any type of business use to the bypass. And the alley behind those homes is really not suitable for commercial traffic. So in order to protect this residential neighborhood, we're proposing for this area to go back to just low density residential is what the neighboring properties are. You have a property here at Walnut and the bypass north of the Rite Aid. There was a letter provided from property owners there asking for going to general commercial zoning. I do have just everyone familiar with this area. There's two law offices on 32nd Street, which are proposed to be in a residential office district. The applicants for these four properties are now requesting a general commercial. And here's the Rite Aid. They may wish to speak a little bit later on that. Okay, the next map change. There is a property at the southeast corner of Chestnut Street and the bypass, which had been changed to general commercial. This is proposed now to be part of the medium density residential office, along with similar properties on the east side of the bypass south of Chestnut. Next, we have the Penn State Health property. between Market and Chestnut. That is currently general commercial. Again, to protect the residential areas on many sides of this property, the proposal was to go to a neighborhood commercial district, which would not allow the most intense commercial uses. The next change is this is where the bypass meets 581 on the northeast corner. There is the Farm Bureau property in here and a church. That is currently commercial highway, and it's proposed to go to medium density office. The main problem with this property is it does not have access onto the bypass, onto 1115, and the access must go through single-family residential neighborhoods. So that's fine for the intensity of uses that are currently there, but it would not be fine for a major commercial development. To the east of that property, west of the recycling center, north of 581, the proposal was to make this medium density residential office, medium density residential, with the idea that there could be some townhouses built on a portion of the property and maybe parking put up against the bypass. There is a proposal to add a parks district. The existing parks in the borough would be placed into its own zoning district. What that mainly does is it provides an extra level of protection for the parks. The east part of Market Street along Lemoyne, this is proposed to go from a neighborhood commercial district to a downtown district. The goal is to extend the character of the downtown to the Lemoyne border. And I think that is all of the map changes. There also is a text amendment that goes along with this. This text amendment would include listing all of the land uses allowed in each zoning district in a table. That was done for many years in Camp Hill, and then a different system was used, and your staff has recommended going back to a table format. This is easier to find things. The current ordinance sends many uses for zoning hearings to Borough Council as a conditional use. The proposal in the draft is for most of those uses to go to the zoning hearing board instead, so we don't overburden your Borough Council with multiple hearings on sometimes matters that really are not of borough-wide concern. Most of the districts do not have any significant policy changes to them. For instance, the low density district and the medium density district where most people live is not proposed for any significant changes. The neighborhood commercial district, again, is not proposed for any significant text changes. The downtown district, the most important change there is that you could put in a small hotel of up to 30 guest units under this draft in the downtown. And the commercial districts, the general commercial was not proposed for significant changes, and the shopping center district is not proposed for significant changes. The light industrial district is south of 581. The most important change there is to be more careful about which industrial uses are allowed by right and which industrial uses have to go to the zoning hearing board for approval. So that is a summary of what's in the draft amendment. The goal of this process, there's an ad hoc committee working on this process. They wanted to do an interim amendment to deal with the most important issues. And then there's going to be a later, more comprehensive revision to deal with administration, signs, definitions, parking, and some of the other issues that are affected by zoning. But they felt a need to push through this interim amendment as a higher priority to avoid lost opportunities or things getting in under the wire that would not be desirable in the borough. So I'm going to turn it back over to the council president to call on people for their questions and comments. I think you also wanted to ask the council members for questions first.
I am. Thank you, Charlie, for that explanation and for your map. So yes, so Borough Council members, and I can't see you from my screen because we're all looking at the map. So Julie will, or I guess you're unmuted anyway. Anyway, council members, what questions do you have for Charlie or for the zoning committee, codes and zoning committee? And I know
Question.
we'll discuss this.
When you spoke about the law firms adjacent to the rate aid above north of Market, were you talking about them being rezoned to medium density residential, and their request is commercial general? Or can you re-explain that part to me?
Sure. The two law offices that are right here on 32nd and Walnut, effectively, they wouldn't change. The name changes, but it really is the same thing. It just goes from high density office to medium density office, but it really means the same thing.
Okay.
The applicants, the property owners of these 4 properties here are requesting a change to general commercial through a letter to Borough Council. That is not part of the amendment, but they for that.
Sorry.
So it's in between 33rd, Walnut, 32nd, and the Rite Aid.
And I don't know if those owners are on, but with MDRO, you can have a law office, correct?
Yes, those would be conforming uses under the current and proposed zoning.
Okay,
I think the goal is to sell I imagine to sell the 4 properties as one entity. They'd be much more valuable that way.
okay.
And is that something we can look at in the future, but we're not looking at right now?
Any changes to the amendment would require a new review by the county and borough planning commissions.
Thank you.
Make any changes, it would delay the process. But there will be another step in the process where we will be open to other changes.
Okay.
So I think our intent, I mean, I think that, I don't want to speak for the whole committee, but I think we looked carefully at that particular location and are fairly confident that we've landed on the right, naming and districting for that particular.
Which is medium density residential office.
one.
For the front
Yeah.
offices, and then the part on 33rd would continue to be low density residential office, which the adjacent homes all are.
And the
Okay.
adjacent homes on the other side of Walnut are also,
Low density.
the homes across the street on Walnut are also residential.
Right,
Okay.
there is also a hair salon business in this home too, right now.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to be clear where we're at today. for the-
And that is, I believe, allowed as a home occupation. So that's a lawful use.
Okay. Good questions. Anything else from council members? All right, then I'd like to open it up for public comment at this time. Because we have a stenographer, it's important before you make your comment that you state your name and you provide your address for us so that we can get it in the records. So you can raise your hand using the reaction button, or you can find the little blue button next to your name under participants.
Okay, Brett Miller, I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Thank you, Julie. Hello, everyone. My name is Brett, B-R-E-T-T, Miller, 848 Wynwood, W-Y-N-N-E-W-O-O-D Road. First of all, thank you to everyone who has worked very hard on the zoning changes. It is very well thought out, and I support everything that you all have done. Highly concerned about the law offices on North 32nd next to the Rite Aid. And I agree with Councilmember Packer that looks like it's very well considered and it should stay MDRO, and in no uncertain terms should that ever be changed to commercial general because Otherwise, the borough will have a problem on its hand like it had the past few years at the corner of 32nd and Chestnut. So thank you for keeping that MDRO. And thank you for everything. I fully support what you're doing. Thanks. That's all.
Thanks, Brett.
Okay, Steve.
Hi, everyone. Steve Knobb, 120 South 31st Street. I'm speaking in part for my wife, Jennifer, as well. And I should divulge that I have been part of the ad hoc committee working on the zoning. I just want to say that, of course, we support the changes put in front of council at this time. And, you know, that we are a municipal planning state. It is the borough's right to make these changes that we see as the right changes to our land planning. And that's all really. Keep it brief. I support it, please. Thank you.
Steve, thank you for being on that ad hoc committee. I know that was a lot of time. I appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Okay, Jennifer.
Good evening, everyone. Jennifer Hoover, 127 South 31st Street. First, I just want to echo the prior commenters' suggestions, and mostly, though, I do want to also thank Steve and the ad hoc committee and Mr. Schnell for his guidance throughout this process. And I will say I do support these changes, and I urge you to move this forward to council and cast a favorable vote tomorrow evening. And just to say that probably next to adopting a budget for the borough, you know, steering how we want to provide for our community development and its character and quality of the development is probably your next most important responsibility as a council member. So I think with the work, very careful reassessment of the zoning ordinance and map, I thank you for that work and providing a better path to shaping how we want our community to look in the future. So thank you. And again, I urge your adoption tomorrow evening.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I don't see any other hands at the moment. Again, it's under participants. If you click on that, you can raise your hand that way. Or you can give a thumbs up.
We have such a large audience. I just want to give it another minute or two to make sure we've got everyone.
Lee, I had a comment that I neglected to make before when I was council members' opportunities. Okay, if I
Yes, please.
answer that now? Yeah, I just wanted to say that the lack of questions and comments from council members should not be taken as suggesting we're not paying attention. You know, this has been a long process with lots of input, lots of meetings. Thanks a million to the ad hoc committee. Tremendous amount of work went into this, and the planning and zoning committee. We've been kept posted on what's going on. And I would just echo the comments praising the work of the team and express my support, notwithstanding the lack of questions and comments otherwise. Thank you.
Tom Collinsworth was also on the ad hoc committee. I think he might be on the phone, but or on the call, but he's being quiet. So we'd like to thank him as well.
There is a hand up now.
John has his hand up, so I'm going to ask him to unmute. John?
Oh, yes. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I am the realtor representing two of the property owners there at next to Rite Aid, across from Mission Barbecue and those. And the reason being that they felt that by moving that commercial line up to Walnut Street, it squares it off with the properties directly across the street as general commercial. and would make very little impact on any of the surrounding properties because you've got two fairly wide borough streets. You've got Walnut Street, you've got 33rd Street, both with a fair amount of capacity for those properties. But that was the property owner's feelings, that they would like to be considered in the same commercial status as across the street and next door to them. So two of their 4 sides are all general commercial. And then the other 2 sides are streets. So they're not butting up against residential.
Julie, if you wouldn't mind unmuting Tammy the Steno. I believe she's trying to either she tell us she cannot hear or she needs additional information, and folks are giving their comments. So thank you.
There she is.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind leaving me unmuted. The last gentleman who spoke, I got the first name John. I don't know who the last name was.
It's Leidy, Leidy.
Thank you.
I would note that a court stenographer record is not required. It's something the borough is doing voluntarily. So if there's something missing from it, it's not a crisis.
Okay, any other comments? All right, then we will close this meeting. Thank you all very much for your comments and for your participation. We will see if we can get this on the agenda for tomorrow, unless we are advised by a solicitor that there's a few more loops that we need to close. But hopefully we can vote on it tomorrow. All right, thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Thanks.